I should have known better. Turning 35 felt like the perfect moment to finally center myself. Just one evening where it wouldn't be about managing expectations, fixing someone's mess, or fronting another bill under the banner of family. I booked the rooftop of my building. Champagne, soft jazz, people I actually liked. For once, I let myself hope. My name is Dory, and for most of my adult life, I've been the glue holding together people who didn't even notice they were pulling me apart. But that night was supposed to be different. That night was supposed to be mine. Until Lila, my younger sister, stood up with a champagne flute, her smile too wide, too rehearsed. "Before Dory gives her little speech, I have an announcement," she chirped. "Oscar and I are engaged." Applause erupted. Glasses clinked. My mother dabbed fake tears and clutched her pearls. My father barely looked up. "And guess what?" Lila said, beaming right at me. "My amazing big sister Dory is going to be my maid of honor. And she's covering the whole wedding. We're getting married in Santorini." I don't remember what I said. Something like, "Of course." Something like, "Congratulations." But in that moment, as everyone else celebrated, I smiled and swallowed the familiar burn in my throat. They thought I would cave, again. They thought I'd pay, again. What they didn't know, I was already packing my bags. And this time, I wasn't just walking away. I was burning the entire playbook they wrote for me. The rest of the night passed in a blur of polite smiles and backhanded hugs. People came up to congratulate me, as if being volunteered to bankroll a destination wedding was a badge of honor. I played along. I always played along. That was the role I'd perfected since childhood. Lila basked in the attention like it was oxygen. My mother clung to her side, eyes gleaming with approval, while my father retreated into his usual role of absentee financier, silent unless money was involved. At one point, Lila leaned in to whisper, "You're not mad, are you? I mean, this is big, Dory. I couldn't wait to tell everyone." She didn't wait because she never had to. 4 years younger, prettier in that curated influencer way, and always the one the world made room for. She played the innocent little sister, while I played the responsible one. That meant I paid for college tuition she dropped halfway through, picked up our parents' mortgage when Dad's real estate gamble flopped, and yes, even funded Lila's emergency rhinoplasty after her breakup with a B-list DJ. They all thought I'd forgotten, but I hadn't. Later that night, when the last of the guests had trickled out and Lila left in Oscar's arms, I poured myself a glass of wine and opened the folder I'd been keeping on my laptop for years. I called it Contributions, a spreadsheet of every dime I'd ever poured into my family's endless pit. Tuition, $28,400. Mortgage, $45,000. Lila's emergency surgery, $12,700. Miscellaneous expenses, clothes, bills, flights, handouts, another $30,000 at least. Total? $216,412, not counting interest, not counting peace of mind. I stared at that number until it stopped looking like a dollar amount and started looking like motive. They thought I'd go along with this latest con, but they didn't know what I knew. This time, I had a plan, and it started with a single perfect lie. The next morning, I showed up to brunch wearing the same smile I'd worn my entire adult life, polished, polite, and completely false. My mother was already seated, fluttering through a bridal magazine, as if the engagement had been her own. My father barely looked up from his phone. Lila arrived 20 minutes late, dramatically waving her ring in the air like it hadn't already hijacked my birthday. "So," she chirped, sliding into the booth, "have you called the venue yet? They need the deposit by Monday." I took a sip of coffee and nodded, slow and steady. "Of course, I'll handle it." That was all they needed to hear. They didn't ask how or when. They never did, because I had always delivered. Only this time, I wouldn't. Instead, that afternoon, I confirmed my transfer to our company's European office, a move I'd been quietly arranging for 3 months. Barcelona, a city where no one knew me as the problem solver, a place where I didn't have to be their safety net anymore. By Monday, I'd closed every joint account Lila had access to. The credit cards I'd stupidly co-signed for her. Canceled. I watched the notifications come in like dominoes falling. Transaction declined. Card no longer valid. Insufficient funds. She texted me in a panic. Hey, sis, something's wrong with the joint card. Can you fix it? I replied, looking into it. Must be a bank error. Don't worry, I've got it. Then I opened a new spreadsheet titled Phase 2, Dismantled Gently. I spent the next week building a web of perfectly crafted illusions, fake vendor emails, mock contracts, bogus schedules. I even photoshopped a venue confirmation email with a fake contact in Santorini named Elena Papadopoulos. Lila ate it all up. One evening, she barged into my office unannounced, practically vibrating with excitement. The planner says we need to get moving on floral design. Do you have the number for that Athens vendor? I didn't skip a beat. Elena's finalizing her quote. She says she can knock 20 grand off if we confirm this week. See? Lila beamed. I knew you'd make it perfect. She kissed my cheek and floated out of the room, and I went right back to packing. By then, my lease in Barcelona was signed, movers scheduled, my apartment officially listed with a realtor. Even my HR department thought I was going to Phoenix for a leadership retreat. I'd left them just enough breadcrumbs to believe the story I wanted them to believe. Oscar, of course, started getting anxious. He began calling daily, asking about deposits and dress fittings and vendor timelines. I gave him the same line every time. Don't worry, it's all under control. I knew it wasn't wedding jitters. It was money jitters. Because what Lila didn't know, and what I confirmed through the private investigator I hired, was that Oscar's family wasn't rich, not even close. His big inheritance? A pile of debt tied up in a failed import business. He was counting on my money just as much as Lila was. And that made the game more interesting. At night, I would lie in bed and scroll through emails I'd scheduled to auto-send, fake updates, payment confirmations, progress reports, each one carefully worded to delay, confuse, and reassure. Meanwhile, I emptied accounts, tied up loose ends, deleted myself, one system at a time. They still thought I was handling everything. They had no idea they were standing on sand, and the tide was already rising. 2 weeks before I left, the cracks started showing. Lila called me 5 times in one day, frantic over the bridesmaids' dresses. Apparently, the boutique claimed they hadn't received any deposit. But I told them you'd handle it, she whined over voicemail. You said you'd call Elena. I didn't return the call. Instead, I texted, meetings all day. We'll circle back tonight. Everything's under control. That phrase had become my shield. It was short, vague, and just comforting enough to keep them believing the fantasy. And that fantasy was the only thing holding their plans together. At work, I minimized my real projects behind spreadsheets full of fake vendor timelines. I even created a fake event planning folder in case someone from HR wandered by my desk. Meanwhile, I met weekly with my Barcelona manager over encrypted calls, finalizing details for the transfer. I was 3 weeks out, and they still didn't know. That's when Oscar showed up at my office, unannounced. He smiled like he thought it would disarm me. It didn't. Hey, he said, settling into the guest chair. Just wanted to check in. You know, make sure everything's on track. Lisa's a little overwhelmed. I nodded, playing the game. Of course, completely on track. Great. He glanced around my office, eyes scanning my screen. You're a lifesaver, Dory. Seriously, we'd be lost without you. I smiled, even as I imagined torching every part of his fake charm. After he left, I updated my detonation schedule. That's what I called it. An actual color-coded countdown to the day I disappeared. Flights confirmed, final wire transfers scheduled, all assets moved to an offshore account. Even my mail forwarding was in place. They weren't just going to be surprised. They were going to be erased from my life. Simone, my best friend since college, and the only person I trusted, called that night. They still buying it? Hook, line, and mortgage, I said, flipping through a photo album of childhood holidays. Lila always front and center, me just out of frame. Simone exhaled. Dory, you sure you don't want to just tell them off? Like explode in public? That's their language. Chaos, tears, drama. I speak in consequences. She paused. Damn! You've rehearsed that line, haven't you? Twice, maybe 3 times. We both laughed. But the truth was, I'd rehearsed all of it. Every step, every withdrawal, every lie. Because for once in my life, I wasn't reacting. I was leading. Lila sent another message the next morning. Venue says they haven't received the contract. Can you resend? I replied with a screenshot of a fake email chain, CC'd with a phony Elena and a PDF with Greek words I copied from a travel blog. Already resent. Probably a delay on their end. I'll follow up. She didn't thank me. She never did. She just sent a selfie of her holding a bridal catalog with the caption, "We'll make it perfect thanks to you." And all I could think was, no, Lila, we won't, but you'll remember me forever. They thought they were in control, that I was still quietly managing everything from behind the scenes, just like I always had. But the first real fracture appeared the day of the bridal shower. It was supposed to be hosted at my apartment, or so Lisa told everyone. Invitations had gone out, guests were dressed, balloons were ordered, and Lila had made an Instagram story the night before with a caption that read, "Can't wait to celebrate at my sister's place tomorrow. She always makes everything magical." What she didn't know was that my place had sold 3 days prior. I was already in Barcelona, while Lisa and my parents were circling the building in Manhattan, trying to get past security. I was having café con leche on my new balcony, watching the Mediterranean sun rise over the Gothic Quarter. Simone, who'd volunteered to be my eyes on the ground, sent me updates like she was covering a red carpet disaster. "They're here," she texted. "Lisa's screaming at the doorman. Your mom is fake crying into a lace napkin." I laughed. "Let me guess. She's saying I forgot my own hosting duties?" "Nope," Simone replied. "She just asked the new owners to let her in because her daughter lives there." "Correction," I sent back. "Used to live there." The retired couple I sold the apartment to had moved in the day before. When Lisa tried to force her way in, they called the building manager. And when the building manager refused to help, she called me. 6 times. Then she texted, "What the hell is going on? Why are there strangers in your apartment?" I didn't answer. Instead, I posted an Instagram story of a cobblestone alleyway lined with red-tiled balconies, a sangria in my hand, and the caption, "Freedom tastes like citrus and silence." 10 minutes later, all hell broke loose. My phone blew up with missed calls. Lisa, Mom, Dad, even Oscar. My inbox flooded with passive-aggressive emails. "Where are the deposits? Why isn't anyone answering at the venue? Have you confirmed the caterer?" Even the wedding planner joined in, CCing me on her latest message. "We will be canceling all arrangements unless we receive confirmation and payment by EOD." Still, I stayed quiet. Simone kept sending play-by-plays. "Lisa's crying in the lobby now. She just called Oscar useless. He looks ready to bolt. Your mom's asking the doorman if you've had a mental breakdown. They're calling every real estate agent in the city to figure out what happened to the apartment." At one point, my father texted me, "You are tearing this family apart." And I almost laughed out loud. Because it wasn't me who tore anything apart. They had built the whole thing on the illusion that I was dependable, controllable. They expected me to keep playing the role I never auditioned for. But I'd already burned the script. Lisa always believed that if she cried hard enough, someone would come fix it. Usually, that someone was me. But not this time. The morning after the bridal shower disaster, she sent a flurry of messages, each more frantic than the last. "I'm flying to Barcelona. We need to fix this, together. I know you're upset, but you don't have to run away. Please, Dory, just explain why you're doing this." I didn't answer. Instead, I checked her flight number. Yes, Simone had already found it, and confirmed she'd be arriving the next day. Except, her passport had expired 5 years ago. Simone texted, "She's booked the flight, but TSA might stop her before Spain does." "She won't get past immigration," I replied. I made sure of that. Weeks earlier, I'd filed a quiet report through the Spanish consulate's online system. It flagged Lisa as a potential financial liability based on a documented history of unpaid debts and suspicious transactions. I used her real name, her real birthday, her real mess, just like she'd used mine. So, when she landed in Madrid, Lisa was immediately pulled into a secondary screening room. Simone's contact at the airport filmed the aftermath. Lisa, red-faced and sobbing, waving a folder of bridal mood boards at a tired customs officer. By the time she was escorted to the next available flight home, she'd made a scene in 2 languages, and not one person was rushing in to save her. That night, I met Jerome for dinner. Yes, the same Jerome who left me 2 years ago because I was too married to my family's problems. Apparently, watching me dismantle those problems from a distance had reignited something in him. Or maybe he just missed having dinner with someone who didn't ask for money between courses. We drank Rioja on a rooftop as the city glittered around us. He smiled over his glass. "You're glowing, you know." "That's called peace," I said. "It's new." My phone buzzed. "Lisa." I sighed, held up the screen. "Showtime?" He nodded. "Let her speak, but only once." I answered and put it on the speaker. Lisa's voice cracked immediately. "You planned this. You knew I couldn't get into Spain." "You're right," I said calmly. "I did." "But you've always helped me." "Not anymore." There was a pause. "What am I supposed to do now?" "Start with a job, maybe 2. You've got bills to pay." Another pause. Then she tried a different tactic. "Oscar left. He said I lied to him, that I never confirmed the venue, that I forged your signature." "Did you?" I was trying to buy time. You said you'd handle it." "No, you said I would, and then you forged my name." Silence. I opened a folder on my laptop and pulled up the scanned documents. Signatures, emails, text messages. All of it neatly organized. "You're in real trouble, Lisa." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Oscar says he's filing charges." "Good. Maybe that'll finally get your attention." "And Mom and Dad? They're devastated. They said you broke the family." "They said that when I refused to co-sign another loan for their kitchen remodel. Forgive me if I'm less than moved." I could hear her breathing, ragged, unsure. "I'm sorry, Dory, really. I didn't know how bad it was. I didn't mean to. You didn't care to know, that's the difference." And with that, I hung up. She messaged me again 2 hours later. "Please, just one more chance." I replied with one sentence. "One chance is all you ever got." The next morning, Oscar's lawyer emailed me, requesting a formal statement for the fraud case. I sent him everything: documents, screenshots, payment records. Within the hour, he confirmed that Lisa had agreed to a written confession in exchange for a reduced settlement. That same day, a viral wedding blog published the full story. Scammer Bride of Barcelona, the $200K fantasy that crashed and burned. Simone texted, "Your sister's trending." I opened Twitter to see Lisa's meltdown playing out in real time. Her GoFundMe had been shut down, vendors were publicly calling her out. And somewhere in the middle of it all, she'd posted a photo of us from 10 years ago. Me holding a cake, her blowing out the candles. The caption read, "I didn't realize how much I took until she stopped giving." Too little, too late, my father tried calling that evening. I let it go to voicemail. His voice for once wasn't angry, it was small. "Dory, we didn't know. We didn't mean for it to go this far." No, they never meant to get caught. The chaos didn't end overnight. Lisa's name trended for 3 days. Wedding blogs dissected every detail of her destination scam, and vendors lined up to tell their side of the story. My inbox overflowed with messages, from relatives choosing sides, from strangers asking if it was real, and from my parents, alternating between denial and guilt. I responded to none of it. Instead, I adjusted the pillows on my Barcelona balcony chair, refilled my wine glass, and opened my laptop to a new email. "Senior Strategy Director, offer confirmed." I smiled. This time, the title was mine. No strings, no favors, no family debts dragging behind me like a chain. Simone called. "Your mom's crying on Facebook Live again. Lisa's hiding out at home. Oscar's lawyer says she's trying to negotiate a reduced settlement. You good?" I'm perfect. Because this was never about revenge. Not really. Revenge is reactive. This? This was liberation. I didn't destroy my family. I simply stopped financing their delusions. They called it betrayal, abandonment, cruelty. But I called it truth. A truth I'd swallowed for years, while they mistook my silence for consent. I was done explaining, done justifying, done saving people who only saw me as useful. Lisa emailed one last time. "I'm sorry, I'm trying to change." I didn't respond. Some chapters don't need closure. They just need to end. And this one? It was mine to write, from the very beginning to the very last word. I didn't disappear. I finally showed up. For myself.